all shall be well, and all shall be well, and in all manner of things shall be well. May I speak in the name of the Holy and Undivided Trinity. Amen. There are not many people that get to hear the sermon that we preached at their funeral ahead of time, but Peggy was special. And as my mom Sheila often said, Peggy's guardian angels protected over her many occasions throughout her life. And so, as she recovered from surgery over 10 years ago, Peggy and I chatted about the sermon I drafted at that time. We laughed about who would be the main sponsor of this event. Would it be Bassett's Licorice All Sorts or Gordon's Gin? And I promised that the sermon would be no longer than 2 polos worth. We remembered what happened when she tried to sneak me some Tic Tacs at Uncle Fred's funeral, and they dropped all over the floor. We all have our unique memories of Peggy. Many of them center around food or hospitality. Peggy was a deeply spiritual person who lived and taught God's message of love and abundant grace. She did not have an easy life, but she knew the presence of the Spirit. And at times of scarcity, times of trial, and at times of pain, she overcame these with a generosity of warmth and affection. Peggy was born on the Feast of the Epiphany in 1928 in Dagenham, Essex, and spent her early years in Leigh-on-Sea. She was evacuated twice during the war, and while she was in Essex, attended St. Bernard's Convent. With the effects of Alzheimer's in recent years, family members got more glimpses into the stories and events of those early years. The prayers she learned at the convent were woven into her soul, so as her memory of the present day faded, these words of comfort and familiarity remained and helped to reassure her in a world that was becoming less visible. The impact of the war would remain with Peggy for the rest of her life. Her caring nature and compassion, especially evident as she supported her husband Keith, who suffered from alcoholism and what would now be called post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of what he witnessed during his time in the Navy. And as for her, she had an underlying fear of loud bangs, thunderstorms, and fireworks. But again, she would always show a brave face and through love, help those around her get through the difficult situation. Peggy married Keith after meeting over a cup of tea while on a strawberry picking camp. She made the move up to Lincolnshire in 1950 and lived at first in a rustic farm cottage in Normandy-le-Walls. She took the adjustment to the more basic and rural life in her stride. Her parents had taught her to be an independent woman, and so she got a job as a secretary, first working for the builder Tommy Scuffham, and then for Charlie Sutton. But the place where Peggy felt really at home was 29 Willingham Road, where she moved in 1961 and lived there for the next 30 plus years. This home, with a former church window in the garden, was where Peggy lived out her Christian faith. I remember the excitement of walking in and taking a deep breath in to smell the delights of what was being prepared on the Rasen. The mulled wine at Christmas or a lemon drizzle cake for afternoon tea. This is also the place where she cared for her mother, her mother-in-law, and for Grandad Keith, who for the 2 years he was dying with lung cancer. Peggy knew the hope and the power of the resurrection, and after Keith died, she had a choice to make, and she chose life. She gave up smoking and decided to open her home up. Like in the gospel, she wanted people to know God's love through hospitality. She took in students from the Walls School of English and the Aston School's language assistants, Renata, Cecile, Stern, Steffi, Ellie, Camille, Frank, and Marcus. She invited people for Sunday lunch and for G&T soirees. She wanted to give back to the community and to the people who cared for her. And if she could not give financially, she could give in time and talents. She took pride in editing the church magazine, being the PCC secretary, a Sunday school leader, and the secretary for the Chamber of Trade. Even when Peggy needed to move into Waterloo House, she brought with her drinks cabinet and a sense of building a community. Her 13.5 years at the home has given many sacred moments of grace. As her earthly body weakened, we who've been given so much by her had opportunities to repay her kindness. We have mourned many small losses along the way as she progressed through the stages of Alzheimer's. But today, we are celebrating the life that she lived and continues to live with God. Growing up, just about everyone of my generation called Peggy Grandma Peggy, whether or not they were related to her. I had the honor and privilege to say that she was my actual grandma, my Grandma Peggy. And I am grateful for her to sharing her faith stories, for the time she was there to comfort me, for all that she taught me about grace, hospitality, and love. And I'm also grateful for her teaching me to truly believe in the saying of Julian of Norwich, all shall be well, and all shall be well, and in all manner of things shall be well. Amen.